10-footer is in. Big-time bucket from Dane Goodwin. Pump fakes, now he's going to drive down the lane, up to the rim, and lays it home. Great move by Leszewski. Feet ahead, Lubin catches, banks it in, and one. Over to Starling, 12 to shoot. Oh, he gets the corner. Dribbles towards the middle, crossover, step back, 25-footer is pure. Oh, Trey Wirtz. Now he picks up the dribble, over to Goodwin, back to Ryan. Oh, he wants another one. Give it to him! All day, baby! All night! Cormac Ryan is unconscious! He's got flames coming out of his hands! Welcome to this week's edition of the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined as always by the head coach, Mike Brey. Coach, interesting week because I know you guys went 0-2. You wanted to get a win. You guys are hungry for a win, but considering where you played, at Duke and at Virginia, I thought your team performed really admirably. They were in both games in the final minute. Just what was your takeaway as the head coach?
You know, Tony, I'm proud for our guys and I'm heartbroken for them because in two great basketball atmospheres, Cameron and John Paul Jones Arena, we played our backsides off and had a chance to win both. And we just came up short, but I loved our effort. I think our kids really enjoyed playing in big-time college basketball atmospheres. And even though they're losses, I hope we can build on that a little bit in these remaining games.
We're going to talk about some of the big moments in those games as we break down the contest, but I want to ask you, of course, this is your final year as the head coach at Notre Dame. Those are two great buildings. Cameron Indoor, where you, of course, have a lot of history with your past, but also then JPJ, great basketball environment as well. As the head coach, what did it feel like to go back into those buildings one more time leading Notre Dame?
Well, certainly, Cameron, I know every nook and cranny. I had memories of my son running around on the court. My daughter was born at Duke Hospital, and it was very touching that Mike Krzyzewski came back to the shoot-around, gave me a great bottle of wine, and then he actually came to the game. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if he came to work the refs for Duke or if he came because I was coaching, but we'll talk about that at another time. But it's just an amazing basketball atmosphere, and our guys were down 14 and battled, and there we are down 1 trying to get a stop. And a guy who hadn't made many threes bangs a three in us, which has kind of been the story of our season.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back and break down both games from this week's edition on the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com, right after this. Welcome back to the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's game breakdown. Let's start with the game at Duke, Coach. You mentioned it in the last segment a little bit, but going back to a place you're familiar with, going into Cameron for the last time, what were your emotions as you got set for a big game against Duke?
Well, you know, coming to the shoot-around was awesome and being in there. And again, like I said, Mike K came by to say hello. But when you come out into the energy of that building, And you know, I was on the other bench for many nights, but I've also been on the Notre Dame bench. I actually was on the Delaware bench once when we played there. You know, our kids were really excited, and that's how I framed it. I said, fellas, I don't care about our record. You got a chance to compete in a great basketball atmosphere. Let's just go for it, and we did.
I want to ask you about how your team responded after the first half, because I'm watching the game, only 23 first half points. You shot 36% from the floor. I'm thinking, man, Duke's a good defensive team. They've got you kind of bottled up. What were you guys talking about at halftime? Because you came out and responded really strong, I thought, early in the second.
Well, you know, you in that atmosphere, as bad as we were, you're trying to give them something to hang their hat on, and they weren't really scoring on us. Actually, one of the things, we may have made a little bit of an improvement defensively last week. I thought we defended in both buildings better, so you're in striking distance, even though you scored 23 points. You're not down 20, you got a chance. And so you make a run in the second half, even though you had to fight back from down 14.
Let me ask you about Van Allen Lubin. This was the third consecutive game in which he was in double figures. Again, he's, over the course of those 3 games, about 12 points and maybe 6 rebounds per game. I just love watching him. When he's playing well with energy, he seems like he's got so much potential. What'd you like from him in this game down in Cameron?
You know, a lot to work with there. He is a great young prospect, and I would hope he would stay here with the new coach, and I think there's a great chance of that. He'll start next year, and he can be on to a great career, and he probably won't be a 4-year guy. You know, he's that gifted. But he gives us another big guy. He gives us a shot blocker. He blocked some shots that night. He made some plays around the basket that nobody else on our team can do.
Let me ask you about Cormac Ryan, who actually had 2 block shots in this game as well. I thought, and you mentioned you were down 14. It was 42-28, and you started to get your offense going. But I thought a big part of that was Cormac defensively. I think he had a couple steals, a couple blocks that really, I thought, kept you in the game and gave your offense a chance to get it going in the right direction.
His individual defense, not only that night, but all year, the man works so hard, but he blocks a couple shots, he gets some turnovers, and now we're off and we're able to get some transition buckets and not play against their set defense. And now you get confident. And when you're coming back and you cause the other team to call timeout, you get a little confidence.
Let's speak about that confidence then, because the guy that I think was exuding as much confidence as we've seen this season was Dane Goodwin. I haven't seen a half like that, really. Maybe Cormac earlier in the year against Michigan State is close to it, but 8 of 8 on the road, didn't miss a second half shot. I think he scored 14 straight points for you. He really put the team on his back for about a 10-minute run there. When you're watching Dane go off like that, what's going through your head?
That run was incredible. And he is a warrior. He is a scorer. And I thought we did a good job, or a better job than we've done most of the year, getting him in the right spots. And when we post him, he's able to make some plays down there.
You mentioned the final trip. I thought you did a great job because JJ did get it to a 1-point game, and you elected, I think I was thinking about Florida State, about a 6-second differential. You guys play it out, and as you said, Mitchell, who doesn't hit a ton of threes, knocks one down from the corner. But I thought your team still, it was illustrative, was 11 seconds left. You managed to score, and then I thought Cormac almost got the tie ball. I mean, we don't have to get into the officiating yet, but just the way you guys played out the final seconds to me told me a ton.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy, Tony? We've been in a lot of game situations. We haven't come out on the winning end of them, but we've been in them. We keep playing. We keep trapping. We keep fouling. We keep trying to figure out how to use the clock and our timeouts. And so, you know, I told them right after the game, and they're disappointed. I said, fellas, you know, you emptied the tank, man. Just let's see if we can do that at Virginia.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back to talk about Virginia on the Mike Brey Show right after this. We're still breaking down this week's game. Coach, you're coming off the tough loss at Duke, but you guys played really well. And I looked at the schedule to start the year. I think, gosh, you got to go to Duke and then to Virginia, going to be the hardest stretch of the season. You go into JPJ. What was your message going into that building for a noon tip-off?
Very similar to, like, we got a chance to play top 10 team in their building, great college basketball atmosphere. And then also I said, gentlemen, they are going from college game day to our game. We are on national TV. Everybody's watching us. And how we end this individually and as a group will be analyzed for all of our futures. And I think our guys have really took that to heart. Like, yeah, everybody's kind of watching how we handle things. And, you know, it's always going to be a close game at Virginia because they're not scoring 80.
Yeah.
And so if you could score a little bit, you're going to hang around. And we continued to kind of hang and keep battling. And they would make a run. We'd call a timeout. We've reacted well. When I've called timeouts, when we've been punched, we've come out of those timeouts pretty good. Yeah. And I still see Dane's shot in the air all weekend. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's there, and it's a great look for the win, and, you know, we'll take that look any day.
You guys start the game really well. 5 of 10 from the floor, but then a dry patch. But the guy I want to ask you about who came off the bench was Matt Zona. He came in, had your only field goal in an 8-minute spurt, had a career high, though, 6 rebounds. I just thought he gave you a ton of great energy. And really, when you've put him in the game this year, you know what you're getting from him. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, he is such a great teammate. He's loved by his teammates. He's loved by our home crowd, as we know. He's a crowd favorite. And he's just there every day, and he's older now. And I thought he really responded, and that's why we rode him. And it wasn't that we were down on Ben. It was Matt was playing really well. And so we played him and played a little bigger with him. But, you know, he will give us that all the time. And, you know, we'll get him in a bunch the rest of the year.
Yeah, you came out to start the second half, and you ultimately tied it at 36. It was an 11-2 run over that portion of time, and you got yourselves in a really close game. You mentioned timeouts, too. It was 45-40, and I just thought, again, you kind of sensed the buildings coming alive a little bit. They'd scored 5 in a row. You called timeout, and you get a Nate Leshesky basket right out of it on an offensive rebound. Just how important was it to stop the game and then come out of there with a basket?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've been doing this a long time, and especially on the road, you can't, if you wait a little too long, it may be too late. And I think maybe at home I've waited too long sometimes, quite frankly. But on the road, you got to stop the bleeding a little bit and recover and get some Gatorade and relax and maybe call a set, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, and pump them up a little bit. And we have done a good job on the road coming out of timeouts and answering runs.
So one of my favorite things to do with you is kind of talk game strategy. So ultimately, they managed to get the game to a 3-point game, and they make the decision. This is what coaches probably go to coaches' clinics and discuss. Should we foul or try to play it out? They elect to foul, which in the moment seems like, okay, smart move, 3.9 seconds left. It puts Trey on the line. Okay, we're going to call timeout if he makes the free throw. So first things first, he has to make the free throw. Then talk to me about the discussion in the huddle about how you're going to try to intentionally miss and get a look at the end of the game.
So we get zone in for Marcus, so we're bigger, and we're talking about, and really, our guys have seen the game situation. We haven't practiced it in a while. They're like, we got it with a miss. Now, Trey is the best candidate for a soft miss. And so in the huddle, we got Matt in, and I told the bigs to X underneath. Don't get hit like X and cross, right, and just see if you can slap the thing back. But Trey also, not only was it a great miss, he's so poised at the end of a game, as we've seen throughout his career. The ball gets to him, and there's no panic. He shovels to my man for just an unbelievable look. And as it's in the air, I'm going, we kind of deserve this. But, we couldn't ask for anything better. We executed. We got the look. They did exactly what we talked about in the timeout. Trey, I told Trey, I said, sorry for screwing up your free throw percentage. But he gave us the right miss. And we had a chance. That's all you can ask on the road. Our guys were really disappointed, but I said, fellas, let's just keep putting ourselves in position. This week, we put ourselves in position to win in tough atmospheres. Let's just keep doing that.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back with more on the Mike Brey Show right after this. Welcome back to the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's time for this week's edition of Irish Intel. Coach, you played really well down in Virginia, just came up one play short. We're going to look at two different plays. The first one I thought was just a great example of Trey Wirtz, who we talked about, kind of quarterbacking your offense. Explain to me how you guys identify the mismatch and ultimately get a great shot.
Well, this is an old group playing that's played a lot together. Great pass by Dane. We get into a jump stop here. We were in a good offensive flow in the second half, but great recognition by Trey Wirtz. I thought Trey played fabulously. He sees the mismatch, tells Cormac, we go into the post, and then they double, and what a great pass out of it, and an extra pass. That's just beautiful basketball. And, our assist to turnover is pretty good.
Yeah.
We know how to play, especially these old guys. But, Trey, again, I thought was fabulous, and we need him. He is a IQ guard, and great screen by Matt, and we get some action there, and we're in a nice flow there.
I wanted to just ask a follow-up about Matt Zona, because he hasn't played a ton of minutes this year. To me, this is just a really heads-up play to just set enough of a screen to kind of free up Dane. For a guy that hasn't played that much, that tells me that he's been pretty dialed, and he knows what you're supposed to do when the ball's away for him to come and give him some space, right?
Yeah, he knows how to play with older guys, and he knows his role. Screen, even though he took 2 threes, made 1. Yeah. If he's up there with no one on him, we're going to let him shoot it. But that's just working, knowing I need to screen for Dane because he's the top priority. That's an older guy who understands how to play.
All right, Coach, it's rare we show a miss at the end of Irish Intel here, but we have to talk about this play because I think your team executes this last-second free throw miss. We see so many teams either miss the rim, they don't get the rebound. As you mentioned, you're going to get the rebound and get a shot to win the game on the road. Just explain to me how you guys tried to approach this and then ultimately how you execute.
They reacted in a timeout great. We got Zona in the game. I told Trey it's got to be a soft miss. Mm-hmm. He hits the back rim. There's scramble. We get a back tap. And we couldn't ask for a better look right there. Did the ref bump him right here? He stepped on the ref. The ACC hadn't called me about that yet. Maybe they will today. But he kind of hand checking him, isn't he? Anyways, you got to go for the win here in the back tap. And we get a unbelievable look from a great shooter. And, It's disappointing, but we gave ourselves a chance.
I feel bad that we've had to watch this so much and see Dane miss a shot that he makes probably more times than not, because I'm sure he feels bad about it because you guys execute this so well. I just thought, all things considered, this has been such a tough year. To just see your team still execute and perform in these final seconds had to feel good as a coach.
I mean, and these are the old guys that have played a lot. And I thought Trey Wirtz was, not only a soft miss, how about right here? Thank you. And he's got K.A. Clark and the ref guarding him. No wonder he missed.
So, Coach, it's your first season at Notre Dame. I just want to know, in the offseason, when you were approached about this opportunity, what about Notre Dame drew you to this place, and why did you want to come continue your coaching career here?
Notre Dame, prestigious university, prestigious program, basketball program, winning tradition, and then having the opportunity to work alongside with some great coaches, and then Coach Brey, a Hall of Fame coach. You just couldn't turn it down.
I wanted to ask you about what it's been like to be on this staff. As you said, it's not just Coach Brey, it's the whole staff, but what's something you maybe learned from them? What have you enjoyed about working with this staff in particular?
Both guys are very experienced, and Coach Slow and Coach Tone, they've welcomed me into the program, and just being able to work alongside those guys and pick their brain. And Coach Slow, he has specific terminology, so it's been awesome. So.
Notre Dame, I talked to a lot of different players and coaches about how impactful this place can be on them. I know you've only been here 6 months or so, but just in your limited time here on campus, what have you enjoyed most about being at Notre Dame? It doesn't have to be on the floor, but just in general about being a part of this university.
Just working with great people. There's great people here at the university. There's great people within the athletic department. So I've been enjoying that a lot.
I want to ask you about a couple of the young guys on this team. I talk to Coach Brey all the time about the same old guys, it seems like, of course, Dane, Nate, Cormac, Trey, but with the young guys, JJ Starling, Van Allen Lubin. I want to ask you about JJ first. He obviously has a great pedigree. What have you seen from him so far this year? What do you think the ceiling is for JJ? Where can he continue to improve to take his skill set to the next level?
For sure. Tremendous talent, high ceiling, electric in the open court, and continuing to improve and get better every day. The things I can see him in improving and taking his game to the next level is on the defensive end. He's maturing on that end, and every day, every practice, he continues to keep growing and getting better in that area.
I want to ask you about Ven, because I think obviously JJ came in with a ton of pomp and circumstance, but I've been really impressed with the way Ven plays in maybe limited minutes compared to JJ, but he's got great athleticism. When you look at him and kind of project him throughout his career, what excites you about Van Allen Lubin?
Ven's he's a tremendous talent for us. He's going to be a great four-year guy for us. And like you said, the athleticism in the front court. He can rebound. He can play above the rim. He can face up. He's got a nice little skill set. He's going to continue to keep growing his game and continue to keep getting better and helping us in our program, continue to be successful.
Coach, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome back to the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time to wrap up this week's show. Coach, you get two great opportunities this week. First, at home, you get North Carolina. Late tip-off, but anytime the Tar Heels come to town, it's a great opportunity for your team.
Great opportunity. Think about Duke, Virginia, North Carolina. You get to play those three programs in a row. We're back home, 9 o'clock at night. Our home crowd has been so good to us. We only have 2 more home games. Come out and help this group, but it would be an opportunity for a win over a great program.
After that, you get a chance to go on the road and play a Wake Forest team that we saw here at home. Man, they shot the lights out. I think you're hoping they maybe go a little bit colder. When you go down there, it's going to be tough sledding. But any chance to play a team for the second time, I always think if you've lost that game, it's a great opportunity for the team to kind of get some revenge. It would be great to go down there and possibly spoil some postseason hopes for them.
No, I think, we can be a spoiler now the rest of the way. We're playing teams that are NCAA tournament teams. And you can either knock them out or mess up their resume. Let me put it that way before we go to Greensboro. But Wake, come on, man. They can't shoot it that well, especially that one guy. But it's that atmosphere, because they've been winning the last 2 years, will be electric. And our guys have loved playing in those atmospheres.
Coach, looking forward to it. We'll talk next week. That does it for this week's edition of the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com.